Hey guys, Stock Saturday, and it's a nice green week, outperforming the market as one of those rare occasions. The S&P and Nasdaq both up just under 1%, and I'm up about 3%. So very nice. Most of this sort of hasn't really come in this portfolio. They're sort of up about 1,000, sort of broadly sort of a few bits and pieces up, but nothing in particular. But the big move has come because of this. It's gold. So haven't quite worked out exactly why it spiked up so high yesterday. There's been sort of lots of talk as to why it may have happened. You have had the Chinese and sort of some of the Eastern exchanges sort of paying quite a premium for gold recently. Chinese, I believe, Shanghai exchange have been paying sort of over $2,000, and that is all sort of physically settled. So maybe the physical market is sort of a little more buoyant than the sort of paper futures market in the US, because a lot of this doesn't really get settled and can just be sort of manipulated with various amounts of contracts and things with no real metal behind them. But yeah, that's sort of hell of a move up. Whether this is because of the Israel conflict, I don't know. It sort of didn't spike up on the news when it happened, but yeah, just suddenly gone up on Friday. Obviously, this is, just offsetting the down move that we've had over the last month. It sort of dropped down to low sort of $1,800, and yeah, sort of over the last year, it's been sort of around this low to mid $1,900 range. But yeah, I think there was sort of slight concerns that it was going to really start sort of dropping off pretty hard, and yeah, whether this is could be a sort of spike up and it returns back down again, but looking good so far. Silver sort of had a similar move up to $22.70. Again, that sort of just put it up to around about the range that it's been bobbling around in, slightly lower really, so it's doing a little bit worse than gold. And then sort of some of the other commodities, copper is sort of, as they call it, Dr. Copper, potentially indicating that the recession could be starting. It's back down to sort of pretty much the year lows. Yeah, believe that is. The year low was 352, so we're nearly there. Whether we're going to get a sort of rough time in later this year and sort of into next year. A lot of people are predicting sort of $3 copper. I think I would be probably buying that dip, since most sort of analysts are saying the deficits in copper should really start to hit around 2025. So it's not too far away, and yeah, I think that would be a nice opportunity. Might finally get into my KGHM, the Polish miner. So oil's been a bit erratic. I tend to focus on Brent. I've sort of mentioned this before. I think a lot of the news sort of is American news, and so they sort of naturally focus on US WTI oil. I think Brent is sort of the vastly more popular. It's sort of, I think, it's about 2/3 of the world's oil, and sort of getting on for 3/4 of the world's oil is sort of priced, benchmarked to Brent. So yeah, it's that's sort of the oil I would focus on, and yeah, in the last sort of month it sort of reached its highs around 93 up to 97, and yeah, sort of come back right down to 83, and that sort of spiked up this last week. So interesting, you have a gold and oil spike up in the same week. Again, whether this is maybe partly due to the conflict, sort of supply being disrupted, but we'll have to see. Obviously, that's a bit of a headwind for gold, sort of oil being one of the major consumables. So it would be nice to see oil come down a little bit, and gold could continue upwards. And lastly, iron ore, just sort of not really following the copper trend. It's just been sort of higher lows and higher highs since the bottom in May. So that's not too bad. $117. Not looking too bad for Rio Tinto and Vale, I suppose. Although both of those are sort of pushing more towards copper as much as they can. So yeah, still keep the money in from iron ore. I expect they'd rather it was higher than 117, but you get what you're given. So yeah, commodities overall not looking too bad. So yeah, this has been my big gainer for the week off the back of the gold price. Coeur Mining up 11.6%. This is sort of a fairly outsized gain. We're not seeing the same from Equinox. I think Equinox up about 6%. And sort of no real news to trigger this off, but it is nearly break even for me now with this buy, because I've been or with this move upwards, because I have been buying sort of and averaging down with some of my my money market money and sort of other cash really as well, and on the options. I was never buying obviously in the the sort of the highs, $4, and even sort of 2021, $8-9. So I did sort of start really in the $3. So it hasn't taken all that much to sort of bring that average down. And yeah, hopefully with a decent gold price next sort of couple of years, could be looking pretty nice. The other one I'm still very much focused on is Himax Technologies. Not a loved stock at all, I wouldn't say. It's sort of down on the last sort of few days, and yeah, can't really see why. I still think things look good for the next year or two. Inventory coming down, that was sort of part of the issue. They were having to sort of lower prices to lower that inventory, and they've sort of made some write-offs and sort of one-time losses which won't continue. And yeah, sort of read a good article on Seeking Alpha about them, sort of suggesting that maybe this quarter could be the turnaround really. So we'll see the earnings next month. But the analysts, obviously there isn't a lot of analysts, it's only a small company, but yeah, they've sort of been bringing down their EPS targets for certainly for this year, but also for next year even. But 52 cents projected for next year. I'm sure this won't be what actually transpires, but I mean, if it was 52 cents, it's 10 times earnings, sort of in a not a particularly bullish stock. So yeah, if they can do sort of better than that, and we start to get a bit more sort of liquidity in the market, maybe a bit of QE. China are already starting their QE from the looks of it, and IMAX do an awful lot of business in China. So yeah, with that and the sort of EV market being a tailwind for them, and sort of potentially VR and AR glasses and that sort of thing, I think they could do well. So with the sort of holding in my invest account and the options, I'm hoping for big things. So this has been the talk of the Discord and sort of quite a few YouTube videos from the UK focused people. HMRC sort of this has been sort of mentioned before, that they're not very happy with fractional shares in UK brokerage accounts. They're saying in the ISA basically there are sort of rules dating back to the original ISA rules sort of from the 80s. And they read it as an ISA should only hold whole shares. So they're saying whether they're meaning fractional shares should be removed from the ISAs. Some people are taking that as they should be taxed. I'm not sure that would really happen. I'm sure they would say, they need to be removed from ISAs, because that's happened over the last couple of years. They've been sort of quite a few things in Trading212 particularly that have had to be removed from the ISAs, Chinese shares for example, and yeah, I could certainly see them sort of saying fractional shares have to be sold down to the nearest whole share, and they may get moved out into your general investment account if you have one, or you may get one set up. Similarly, you have if a company goes into administration. They may sort of go to trading over the counter, and you'll get. I've actually had this with a couple of holdings. You get those shares moved to your general investment account as over-the-counter trading shares. So yeah, I really can't see them sort of hitting you with a tax bill, but I could certainly see them saying that they're no longer allowed. Damien Talks Money has done a very good video on this. I thought his sort of stance was very on point and sort of at least firing a bit of a shot to HMRC and the Financial Conduct Authority as well for sort of allowing these fractional shares to be in place for 4 years, 5 years. Certainly Trading212 and Free Trade and quite a few sort of newer brokers are all sort of been allowed to list with, the front headline being invest from as little as £1, and that was sort of heavily on, heavily emphasising fractional shares, especially of US companies. So yeah, it's not something that I can really see going through. Jeremy Hunt has a desire to simplify the complex landscape of ISA products. So yeah, saying that you can't own shares of or fractional shares just seems like a bit of a backward step. I don't really see what's wrong with that. Some people have said with obviously UK shares largely being cheaper in share price than US, that this may sort of steer people more towards UK shares because they can't buy a whole US share. The sort of McDonald's has been sort of cited as something that UK people use and would like to invest in, but it's £250 a share, so you wouldn't be able to invest regularly in it anymore, and you may buy Greggs or something instead. So yeah, I can't really see that, but I'm hoping this is something that Mr. Hunt will sort of see sense and overrule and say that the legislation has to be tweaked. It wouldn't take a lot. It could say shares are allowed and fractional shares, as long as they're held in full with the broker, are fine. They're not a derivative. And of course, a few of the brokers that offer fractional shares are sort of getting together and writing to HMRC to say that this should be allowed as well, because the law appears to show, Damien was showing this, that the brokers themselves would pay if there were any sort of tax bill due. It wouldn't be the owner of the shares, it would be the broker. So people like Free Trade really can't afford to be getting hit with a large tax bill, considering they're sort of still losing money and still crowdfunding and that sort of thing, trying to sort of save themselves. So yeah, getting hit with a great big tax bill doesn't help at all. So yeah, let's hope saner minds sort of get together and push this forward. So a fairly quiet news week, some sort of bits and pieces, PPI in the US and a UK GDP number, sort of positive for August, but yeah, sort of largely everything as expected. Thursday you did have the US CPI numbers, so that's fairly big, but it was sort of broadly on point. Core CPI, monthly and yearly, sort of as expected, down from last month on the annual, of course, being sort of as expected on the monthly, so down to 4.1%, obviously still above where they want to be, but heading in the right direction. And worth mentioning, or sort of bearing in mind, that Jerome Powell did actually say that they would probably be looking to cut interest rates before they get to 2%. A lot of people are sort of saying there's no way he's going to be cutting while rates are above 2%. He did actually say that they would cut before they get to 2%. So yeah, worth bearing in mind. But the headline CPI did sort of rise. Well, it stayed the same on last month, was expected to come down. So that was 3.7% on the yearly, and 0.4% for the month, which is less than last month, but slightly higher than expected. So yeah, not really a huge move, and not really had a huge impact from the looks of it. Stock market sort of, as I say, broadly flat, even though almost all of the Federal Reserve and sort of Bank of England and the ECB seem to have been talking this week for some reason, or wanting to sort of get their oar in. Maybe sort of a bit of jawboning, as they call it, trying to sort of bring things down without actually doing anything. And as I say, portfolio-wise, it's been sort of just largely the gold and silver miners outperforming. Coeur mining, as I say, my sort of bigger performer for the week, but Equinox Gold doing pretty well, above 10,000 for me now. Both still sort of 5% in the red, but count that as pretty good considering where they've gone since I started buying. That's been a lot of averaging down. CleanSpark sort of down slightly for the week now, down at 352. Still sort of needs a bit of good news on the crypto, but we may have got that yesterday, which I'll cover tomorrow. Fortuna, my sort of one of my smaller positions now, 5.7% up on the week, and yeah, the REITs sort of taking another struggle still. Tritex Eurobox down to 48p now, so that's a new low, I believe. Big box £1.39, and then yeah, Fortuna Silver Mines, my First Majestic Silver, sorry, my sort of smallest miner position now, but that was 9.5% up on the week. Still sort of well below my average, and not really one that I was sort of super keen on anymore, but I do just sort of keep it there. It's one of the big names in sort of when silver goes up, it seems to be one of the first people go to, being a sort of heavily silver focused miner. But there you go. Yeah, Pan American as well, 7% just yesterday, so that was pretty good. Obviously still way below my average cost because I haven't been buying. And the interactive brokers side, nothing happened on Chinese tech, but the options, been buying a little bit more, Equinox, a little bit more Hymax, so that's good. Don't think I got anything else. Didn't actually buy any Coeur mining. It's just up obviously from the fairly big move, and I think I need to start putting in some more sort of low ball bids, because I did actually get filled on a low bid basically on Equinox, even though it was up 6% yesterday. So yeah, I think maybe there's some sort of either people that just have to sell, or sort of panic sellers, or maybe just a bit of a glitch. But yeah, I think it's worth maybe just sort of putting a load of low ball bids out there just to see what happens, and if you get sort of those orders filled, then that's can only be good. You're sort of near enough in an instant profit. So yeah, I will probably be doing that and adding some more cash over the next sort of week or two, because I'm sort of running a little bit low. I've got about £600 in there, so I do want to be buying more, whether it be sort of the gold miners or Hymax. I am sort of very, very keen on adding to Hymax, so we'll see. And CleanSpark, if we get a down move on, or any sort of noticeable down move on CleanSpark, even though Bitcoin is sort of holding up pretty well. So yeah, leave your thoughts in the comments below, and like and subscribe. See you soon.